Love it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of WagMe TV. Episode 9 today. We have a lot of interesting topics to talk about, so let's just get into it. I mean, guys, what a week, right? Can't go talking about this week without talking about our man Elon Musk and his acquisition solo of Twitter. I mean, we had Dogecoin mooning for a little bit. We had SHIB mooning for a little bit. I mean, meme coins were going crazy. What do you guys make of it all? Let's get some thoughts.
It was all kind of memey, right? But it was 54.20 per share, right? I mean, that was obviously on purpose. Had to have been, right? He had to slide 420 in there. He just had to.
Absolutely on purpose, 100%.
But I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy out there. I mean, everyone was saying there's no way it's going to happen. There's going to be the poison pill. I think we even talked about it last week, right? But here it is. It happened. And all the meme coins are mooning.
and that's what's so crazy about it is, obviously he's acquiring Twitter, but just all my feed on Twitter is Elon. And so it's like threads about poison pills. And, I actually thought that the poison pill passed and there was no shot that he was going to be able to do this. So you just saw this crazy fluctuation in the past week of nobody knew like what was happening. It's been an interesting week. And I don't know, like, I guess just my first like initial couple days after the news announced that Elon was on, it felt like it happened and people chatted about it, but then there really wasn't this like big deal made on Twitter. Like for the most part, Twitter kept being Twitter, and it just like so far it's moved along. So I don't know if you guys saw something differently.
No, I agree with that, and I feel like one of the most interesting things I've heard is like it's like the big question is now if during Elon's reign, if they start turning things around, they start getting more users, because his like approach towards generating revenue is completely different from what the past CEO was and what the past like leadership was. So if he starts succeeding and starts getting more subscribers, do other social medias follow and to kind of open it up and like dial back the kind of like, banning and censorship stuff and like, flagging stuff. Because if it leads to more money, companies are going to do it. So we'll see if he changes kind of how things work.
Yeah. I was actually he's changing it to be subscriber based where you pay, correct? And that's how the revenue is being generated versus like ad placements like we see on. I know you were talking about this like on Instagram and Facebook, and you're just flooded with ads all the time. It sounds like that's not going to be the case with Twitter still. So it still keeps that like relevance that we were talking about last week. But yeah, go ahead and go in there.
No, I was actually curious to see like what kind of, because Elon keeps tweeting about like censorship and like, he wants it to be like free speech only and everything. So I actually went and I looked at the like Twitter, like terms and conditions and like what are the rules of Twitter. And there's like a whole page of like, you can go read like no violence and like no abuse and like all these like rules, right? Which apparently they made at some point. Like, is it now just going to be, is that page still going to be there and like they're just not going to enforce it? Or are they just going to remove that page entirely and it's just going to be like total free for all? Like, I'm pretty curious to see like how they're going to like handle like that aspect of it. Because realistically, they're the only social media that's like straight up going that route now with Elon like at the helm. At least that's what it seems like.
And I think time will tell with that. That was a great call from Sia about the subscription model. Like, I think some other news kind of in parallel of this is in the last couple of weeks, Netflix has reported earnings of how a lot of their subscribers are just bootlegging off of other people's accounts. And Twitter, you kind of see this different model if you add in subscriptions where it's not like, you can have a Twitter account and your parents would then hop on your Twitter account to see Twitter. That's like a really weird interaction. Why would you ever do that? And so you could see where that model would actually work almost like very well in this space because it is like your digital identity. And we're talking about, Web3 profile pictures and all that. But like this really is a space where, you know, that is your identity in that platform. And there's not a lot of bootlegging. So I kind of like that subscription model, as long as I can pay for it, of course. But
so you guys would pay for it? You guys would pay
well,
out of your
so
pocket
here's
to
the
use
deal.
Twitter?
Would it be the general user paying, or would it to be to get the blue check mark, you have to pay and then be verified?
No, so he's talked about like basically opening up a whole nother like portfolio of products that you could add to like Twitter. So like edit button, like all this other like maybe different editing stuff. Like he hasn't really, obviously it's been a day into his reign, so I don't know what he's gonna do, but he's
everything's
talking about
gonna
like,
change like crazy in the next 2 weeks. That's
Well,
for
Well, it
he's
sure.
hasn't.
about,
I don't
like-
think it's officially closed yet.
right.
Like, you know, once the agreement comes, like once they, you know, come to an agreement and all that, then it takes like months for the deal to actually close, and then like, you know, then it'll actually be his. But at this point, like everyone is given the thumbs up. It's just a question of now probably just a shit ton of like lawyers and paperwork, and I don't know what else goes into it, but just like craziness. But yeah, sorry, that's just like a small nuance. But what were you saying?
No, I was just saying, like, to Mata's point, like they're gonna be building out more products that would get someone to subscribe. So like the Hexagon NFT verification got a lot of subscribers to Twitter Blue. You know, maybe they kind of expand on that. Like it's possible to do that, but there's really a lot of ways to go. Like it's a very, very influential platform. So I don't know. I mean, it's going to be important to watch it. That's for sure.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if with any of these new payments that he's possibly going to add to the platform, you know, any of these things where you can buy a blue check or these other features, what type of cryptocurrencies he's going to allow. I mean, it's not like an if, it's like when it's going to go in, and it's going to be like, you know, maybe a Bitcoin, Ethereum, but you'll get Shibu in there. You'll get Dogecoin.
Doge.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. There's
That
a
was the
reason
big. That was the big rumor.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there was a
right.
big rumor on Twitter going around where like the payments are going to be able to be made in Dogecoin and like things like that. Because like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Shit, man, if we found out one thing, Elon Musk gets what he wants.
Yeah. And
If he wants Dogecoin, it's gonna happen.
if Twitter
Right.
wasn't already
So-
wild enough, start paying in Doge, you know, that'll just ramp it up another level.
It's so funny.
I'm actually very curious to see how many people. I think like the pricing will be very interesting. Like the team that has to go in there and like come up with the pricing and like how that's structured. There was like, I was seeing one theory where it would be like based on the number of subscriptions you have is how much you would have, or number of followers you have is how much you would have to pay. Because obviously there's a ton of like huge influencers and stuff that like monetize their accounts and like make a shit ton of money, right? And so like for us who have like a few hundred followers or whatever, like we shouldn't be paying the same realistically as like them, who's just like they're probably making thousands of dollars like a week or something just based on their Twitter following. And they have like the, you know, the verification check mark and like all of that. So like maybe there would be some sort of tiered pricing and you could still pay in Dogecoin.
There's this guy, I don't know if you guys have seen this tweet, but it's been like trending recently. There's this guy, Stanny.eth, and I guess maybe he's joking, but he said he's like, oh, Elon Musk, thanks for the spot as interim CEO of Twitter. And I think he's like half joking, but what he's saying is like, oh, I'll ship an edit button next week. Like I'll make the Twitter algorithms open source. Like I'll add support for Ethereum, ENS. So like a lot of people are like thinking about, you know, different ways to integrate that crypto stuff already.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think I actually did see that tweet. I think it went a little viral.
Yeah, it went like low key viral.
Yeah.
And kind of just getting back to like what you were saying, Soham, it almost sounds like it's like the opposite of a YouTube where the largest content creators are, you know, paid the most on the platform. Is it sounding like the largest content creators or like followers with the largest following on the network is going to have to pay? Is that how I was understanding it?
Yeah, because I guess they're the ones making the most money on it. So I guess they're the ones who would have like the most incentive to like pay more, right?
Yeah.
Like they would want to keep paying, like no matter what the cost is, really. Like they're like extremely like basically not price sensitive customers, right? And so you just get as much money out of those people as you can, but you still don't want to like drive away like the masses, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll kind of see how how things go, but definitely, the story of the week. So we had to cover it. I guess kind of moving on, Armada has done a little bit of a deep dive into Matic, one of our favorite cryptos. Take it away, Mata.
Yeah, this was a fun one. It's been on the docket, I feel like, for a couple of weeks, maybe even a month or so now. It's been super important. You hear it all the time in regards to Ethereum. So we thought we'd do a little bit of a deep dive into that subject. But just to start us off, as a kind of an overview, so Polygon, or Matic, was founded in 2017. At that time, it was known as the Matic Network. And so they actually rebranded to Polygon in February of 2021. And they added another developer. It was 3 developers at that time, and then it was 4 then in February 2021. So it was built by a software company out of India called Polygon Technology. Development was coordinated by the Polygon Foundation, very similar to what you see with many of these other L1s, L2s in general, right? I've covered Solana at this point, Phantom, a couple others. That's typically how they're set up across those. But they raised around 5 million across 3 ICOs in 2019. And since then have raised hundreds of millions from crypto VCs. Yeah, ridiculous amounts. They basically, the purpose is to produce the best scaling solutions for Ethereum. So what they've done is they've attached themselves to the mothership. So it makes so much sense that they've raised so much since then. It all kind of started to add up when I started to do all the research of why they started to blow up. But it's the most popular scaling solution, which was the OG Matic network. It's now referred to as the Polygon POS chain, proof of stake chain. And the way I started to kind of think about it is, in a way, it's kind of like a copy of Ethereum that runs parallel to it and really relies on Ethereum for security purposes. So it helps to scale those pieces, bring down some of the transaction fees, some of the things that we hear all the time of complaints around Ethereum. It tries to make those a little bit more bearable or a little bit better there moving forward, while still having the security of Ethereum on the back end. So that's kind of how I started thinking about it.
The transactions that happen on Polygon are still published to the Ethereum blockchain, correct?
Yeah. So what's a good way to describe this? And feel free to hop in there, Evan, if you have something to say there.
Yeah. So I was just going to say that, there's a lot of very mission critical data with some of these applications that are being run on Polygon or just Polygon itself. And you want to make sure that you're saving these mission critical pieces of data to the Ethereum blockchain because of the security that Ethereum's providing. It's by far the most trusted blockchain out there. But there's a lot of these, pieces of data or chunks of data that aren't mission critical. That's more, transaction or just business data, general business data. And so you want to be able to differentiate between those two. So, you're able to save costs. I think Sandeep was talking about back when I believe it was CryptoKitties launched. They were seeing that there was gas fees of $1. And back then, he was even like, this is not going to work. Like just having to pay $1 on every transaction to the Ethereum blockchain and be able to run a business on this is not possible. So they really, their main goal, I believe, is to split that business data from like the mission critical secure data that needs to go on Ethereum.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And to kind of more directly answer that for you, so we'll get into it in a second, the different basically layers of the POS chain, but you can kind of think of one of the layers as like taking a snapshot of that transaction of what happened and periodically submitting that to the Ethereum blockchain.
Right.
So in a way, it's kind of reporting back to Ethereum, which is also a way to start to recover some of those funds if something were to go wrong, right? We now have essentially, I don't want to use proof of history because that's like the Solana thing, but essentially we have the proof of that transaction happening and the history of that transaction happening sitting there on the Ethereum layer. So it does add a little bit of extra security from that perspective.
Right. Interesting.
But I guess as a super high level recap, let me just share my screen here. Looks like I'm disabled. I've been disabled.
Oh man.
All good, all good. Nothing like
All right, I got you.
Perfect.
Well, and I could just chat about Polygon a little bit just so listeners are able to differentiate. So you think of Polygon more as the company, and then within Polygon, there's a couple different products. There's Polygon POS, which is what Mata just chatted about, but there's also, I believe, 7 other products that they have. 3 of them are live at the moment: POS, Hermes, and Edge, if I understand it correctly.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll show a couple little pieces of that too from their webpage. But just for the listeners and for myself, this was super helpful, right? I'm going to start doing this, I think, for all the overviews I do. So just in general, what does it do? It's designed to scale ETH. They deem it as the internet of blockchains, right? Or it's used to improve usability, reduce the transaction fees, really make it easier for developers to connect across blockchain networks that are Ethereum compatible, super important, while not compromising on that decentralization piece. So it uses that proof of stake sidechain to horizontally scale Ethereum. And it has a pretty crazy theoretical capacity of millions of transactions per second by building out more and more sidechains. We see a very similar concept and thought process in Polkadot, which we were talking about just before this as well. Very, very similar mission. The only difference is Polkadot can kind of be looked at it as that layer 0, if you will, even though it's still deemed a layer 1, where it can work with any network through the parachains that they create, rather than Polygon only being compatible with those Ethereum networks. That said, same overall mission: make the existing blockchain more scalable, make sure that we can start to have a lot of interoperability between these chains.
And they do it. They do massive amount of transactions per second, right? I'm sure you'll touch on this, Mata, but I think they've got over 1 billion transactions on their blockchain already. And so just impressive.
Very impressive. And so, I mean, I guess to that extent, it'd be helpful to kind of define what a layer 2 is. And kind of like what we've been talking about, right? A layer 2 helps L1s to scale. So in a way, a lot of people were like, is Polygon going to go away? Is ETH 2.0 just going to make Polygon basically irrelevant? But the idea between L2s and L1s is that they have these things called ZK rollups. They have these things that start to enable these L1s to be a much better and more reliable area. But those L2s are always going to need that reliable L1. But they're going to be super critical for that interchain future that we all know is coming at some point. So final answer is no, I don't think ETH2 is going to completely get rid of Polygon or anything like that. I think very, very critical. I think Vitalik has said tons of times that they're pretty much relying on ZK rollups and things like that to scale themselves here moving forward. So I don't see something like that happening moving forward.
Yeah. And I think if I could add one thing on there, there's, I listened to an interview with Sandeep, and he was saying that, there's those huge cables that go across different oceans to connect the internet between continents. But when you think about the internet within our major cities, it doesn't obviously need to go under the ocean. It doesn't need to use those wires. They've got subnets. And so Polygon is able to create these subnets or be one of these subnets, or it's not Ethereum like doing these huge, portions of work, but it's extremely effective.
Interesting. Yeah. That's a pretty cool analogy. I wouldn't have thought about it like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Sandeep had this one interesting quote. It was, if Ethereum is your bank account, Polygon is your Venmo, and you can transfer things online freely and easily at a low cost.
Yeah.
Right? And I thought that was a really cool comparison and very relatable for where we're at, right? And how our minds are kind of thinking currently. But what were you saying, Garcia?
I was going to say, because Evan brings up a good point about subnets, because I was reading up on this about AVAX too. And I'm kind of curious like in reading about that, I couldn't really delineate the difference between subnet, sidechain, and parachain. And I don't know if they're mutually exclusive or if they're like somewhat the same thing, or but I was having trouble finding the difference.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, and I'm not quite sure. The only thing is obviously Parachain would be Polkadot related, right? Which would be more L1 or L0, so it could run on its own to connect to different blockchains. Whereas sidechain, where we've referred to it within, at least within Polygon, Matic, would be specifically Ethereum compatible. That's the only difference that I know as at the moment, but I'm sure we could do a little bit of a deep dive into that and figure it out.
No, that was good. That was good. It definitely helps.
And one quick addition to that, I think when you look at side chains, those are probably more effective for startups that want to focus on, you know, security. Like there's that triangle where it's security, decentralization, and then I believe it's like, boy, I forget the other one, but it's
Speed.
Speed. I think it's speed.
Yeah.
And so when you look at those, like sometimes, you know, Polygon or Polkadot, they've made their decision on which ones they want to emphasize more within their network. And if you see a startup that doesn't have that same vision or those same needs, but still wants to be able to use them, so you could see those side chains being useful so that they could focus on or build a different type of network that would have different advantages.
Interesting.
That's really cool.
To go a little bit deeper, so as I mentioned, there's a bunch of projects going on, but the one we all are familiar with, the one we all know, is the Polygon POS chain, right? And so just to go a little deeper into that, it essentially consists of 3 layers. The Ethereum layer, which that's where Matic stake. Behind all layer, which is their proof of stake layer, which again, to Soham's point, right, the purpose of that is to take snapshots of the Bohr layer, which is the 3rd layer, to periodically submit them to the ETH blockchain. But that 3rd layer is essentially probably the most important layer, right? It's kind of the Polygon POS chain itself. It has 7 to 12 block producers that are chosen from that Heimdall layer that validators set. So if proof of stake is compromised in any way, these can then be referenced in kind of that order to figure everything out. But there's essentially 3 layers you can think about it from there that are running that POS chain. Which, to kind of go further into that, it's a somewhat centralized setup, but that centralized setup allows the chain to process up to 65,000 transactions per second, right? I was looking it up on, let's see, I think it was DeFi Llama here. I'll pull it up for us. Pretty incredible. It's the most popular L2, right? It's TVL. TVL is 5.1 billion, right? So fairly large. They know what they're doing. They've been around for a long time. But that Polygon POS chain that we've been talking about is solely one of the scaling solutions that they provided. There's one other that's live. I don't know if you know who that would be, Evan, and then, or I guess is that Polygon Hermes?
Yeah, that's Hermes. And I think they've got a couple other in essentially beta right now. Like I know in the next year they're coming out with Aval, Zero. I think there's here they are. Yeah, Nightfall. I think that's coming out. So just other solutions to help developers scale their networks.
Yeah, so Hermes right now, or Hermes, I'm not quite sure how it's pronounced, and the POS are basically the ones that are fully functional or fully live, if you will. And Hermes use the ZK rollup technology. They can process, they've set up to 2,000 transactions per second, so a little bit slower. And in a February presentation, I believe it was Sandeep actually says that it's currently limited to the very simple transactions here moving forward. But the 3 other zero knowledge based scaling solutions that were super close, I believe, was Nightfall, which you can see here. They're in a test net setting. Miden's in development, and then Zero's in development.
Did he say what the strategy is really behind like developing all of these separate scaling solutions versus just like focusing on one, like the one that already like most people use and like the one that's like proven to be functional at the moment?
Yeah, so they're all going to have a little bit of a different purpose from what I gathered. They're not all going to be utilized for the same pieces. So I think maybe we should do a little bit of a deep dive into like what Hermes is versus, right, the POS chain
looks like
versus Zero, right?
Yeah, it's almost like you can think of it as like a family of products. So like some of them are going to help for like security. So like halting penetration or like automatically detecting like security breaches. There's going to be, obviously stuff to help scale additional like different areas of the blockchain too. Like so like there's just a bunch of like, it's basically like a family of products that they're trying to build.
Interesting.
I think another note here is that so early on Polygon, I think they're still kind of focused on it, but their initial focus was on gaming. They really wanted to be that network for game developers in Web3. And they've seen a couple games that have basically created like far too many transactions on the Polygon network and taken the network down because of it. And so when you look at some of these products that they sell, I think a few of them are benefit basically people that want to set up their own networks. So you could think about like corporations that want to set up their own networks, different DAOs or groups of people that want to do it. And the main idea there is, just like we're seeing that it's more cost effective for certain apps and companies to build on Polygon instead of Ethereum, it's going to be more cost effective for an L3 to come in and have basically a network for a corporation in itself. And so they want to be one of those companies that is helping put together products that's going to be able to scale those. So I know we touched on Stack OS in the past episode where we're talking about infrastructure for companies. This is another one of those plays where it could help build the technology that's going to fuel a company in the future. Or not even company, but a network.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's a really good point.
It's funny because two of the projects that we talk about most have their tokens on Polygon. Stack OS is on Polygon and NFT Worlds is on Polygon. Yeah, not to mention the NFT Worlds integration with Polygon with like the gasless transactions and stuff.
That's the only way they could do it, like, is Polygon. So that's the thing too. Like, I wonder, like, to Evan's point, like, as compared to other crypto projects, like that could have a lot of applicability outside of crypto, like gaming, scaling actual corporate companies, scaling, even scaling the cloud. Who knows? I don't really know what they're going to build, but that's that's basically a wide open market, especially if you have a, family of products. So it's really cool. It's a good point, Ev.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. One little piece that I thought was really interesting, and I didn't quite know how to feel about it. It kind of felt like Black Mirror-esque. Was one of their newer solutions is Polygon ID. So it's like an identity system, right? And so I know, like, we've been, like, I don't know, it's been talked about and it's been done in other areas, right? Where it's kind of like you kind of assign like a score or some sort of thing like that. Like, it felt a little bit odd to kind of take it in that direction. And they're partnering with like centralized organizations to create that decentralized digital ID. I think it's an interesting concept, and in a way, like, if it's done right, it could help protect a lot of user privacy, introduce some new use cases to cryptocurrency, like for DeFi and governance and things like that. But yeah, I did find it a little bit odd to like partner with centralized organizations to build something like that out, because it has been done in other countries and we've seen it that way. But just an interesting
I wonder like what the end game use case for that is, because I remember when I was first looking at this, is like years ago at this point, when people were, when I had first started kind of learning about crypto and stuff, like one of the biggest use case arguments that was being made was in healthcare, and how like the blockchain potentially could enable people to have their healthcare records stored securely on a blockchain so that no matter where you go in the world, it's not like you have to like fill out new forms every time. You have to like do this every time.
Wow.
Like
Yeah.
it's like a decentralized network, but also like secure on the blockchain where, you know, no matter what hospital you go to in the world, theoretically, like they would have like your updated like information and everything, no matter where you went. So
Yeah, that's
I'm
super
wondering
cool.
like if there's some sort of connection, maybe not in like the or maybe in the thought process, but also like in the technology that they're trying to build to try to do that with identification.
Yeah.
Seems like
It
it could
almost
be,
sounds like a decentralized Okta, like a decentralized SSO, like for everything in your life, basically.
Yeah, it
is what
sounds like
yeah.
the start of the internet almost, right? Like it's like we got to find out who's on the internet, like who's surfing, you know?
I mean, yeah, so it's an interesting point. So I didn't know whether to take that as like a concern or whether to be like super bullish on it, but that is something on their roadmap that is like very, very, they're very focused on that specifically here for 2022. So I'd like to see where that goes. I'd like to do a little bit more digging on that, but super interesting little piece there.
Coming back to the token. So on all of these products that they're developing, the Matic token will be used. Is that the goal for them?
Yeah, Matic token, at least at the very least, being used for transaction fees on any of the solutions that Polygon creates, at the very least. So, yeah.
So that is something that I didn't know, because if they're developing, I thought this was only like maybe one, maybe two products that they're developing that uses this, you know, token, but you take that to like basically they have a lot of balls rolling in a lot of courts. Like, right? Like,
Seriously.
Like even if like one or two of them, like even if a bunch of them fail and one or two of them land, like,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Could be some serious potential.
Kind of like NVIDIA.
Oh no.
You just have your hand in everything.
Right.
Something fails, that's all right. We'll be all right.
So another note on the token, and this is actually kind of one of the, I don't know if it's a bear case, but it's a concern for Matic, is that they've got like a really fast vesting schedule. Like I think by the end of 2023 or 2024, they're supposed to have all coins in circulation. And so it's kind of the question of, you know,
you mean investing schedule as in from like investors?
I'll let Mata take that one actually.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of investors is one of them. Founders, the foundation, everything gets some of that piece. We could actually pull up something that kind of goes a little bit deeper into that, but I mean, that's something I had to dig into, because once I like looked at a lot of these like news pieces, right? Polygon raises 450 million to scale Ethereum from Sequoia, SoftBank. You know, the partnership with DraftKings, Adobe coming in to work with them. The YouTube head of gaming leaving to come over to Polygon, right? All these things, I'm like, geez, like, this thing is so bullish, right? What is suppressing price? Like, what's going on here, right? And so when I did a little bit of digging, the supply is kind of what the issue is at that point. So Matic has a fairly aggressive vesting schedule. Each time one of those vests comes out, you see the price drop pretty significantly. Their circulating supply had increased by 600 million or so over the last couple months. I think Coin Bureau did a piece on it. And it was when he did it, which was probably a month ago or so, it increased by about 600 million over the last 4 months. And so you have these early token holders that are sitting on like substantial gains, right, from Matic. And as those get vested, they're just going to sell them, right? And so most of that sell pressure, from what I was gathering, seems to be coming from the Polygon Foundation itself when that actually vests out for them. So yes, investors, Polygon Foundation, really everybody that was in early, they're on some sort of vesting schedule.
I guess the bright side is like, you know, you get to the max supply faster, and then hopefully, you know, bullish price movement, or like at least sideways, you know, faster than you would go down. But at least it's only 10 billion circulating supply, so like a third of what Cardano is. And it's at like 7.8 ish right now. So just like 12 or 22% to go. But yeah.
Yeah. And
okay, here's the game plan.
What happens when we get there. What's the game plan, brother?
Here's the game plan.
And this is not financial advice.
NFA.
We map out when the vesting periods are, and we go 100x leverage short Polygon on those
I
days.
love that.
Maybe it could be the move if we've seen it in the past, you know.
I mean, let's see if ETH 2.0 ever comes out. Like that's the other thing too.
Seriously.
Like if ETH 2.0 comes out, yeah, what's the point of L2s if ETH 2.0 comes out? So that's the other thing is you could have that, but like, you know, I think how long have we been waiting for that? Like
our whole lives.
Our whole lives, exactly, years.
Yeah. So,
but I don't know if we wanted to transition. I can definitely link some of these articles I mentioned, like the YouTube head of gaming and Polygon raising a bunch of money from a bunch of these investors. But do we want to move into NFTs really quickly?
let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's pass it to the NFT Lord himself.
I wish I was an NFT lord. I'm not quite there yet. I need bigger bags for that nickname. But no, just really quick. We don't need to we can kind of just chat about it super fast. But so Bored Ape Yacht Club and Yuga Labs, their parent company, are launching their metaverse. So there's going to be 2,000 plots. It's launching on Saturday. And so each one of these are going to have like their own like features. And so like there's going to be like secret artifacts, natural resources, like certain NPCs that inhabit each area. And what made Apecoin pump like crazy, it's up almost 100% in the last week. It was at $11 like a week ago. It's almost at 20. And so why it's pumping is because they announced that so basically most of the mints are going to be done in Apecoin. I think it's I'm pretty sure it's Apecoin, but you can do ETH. But like most of the people that are verified, like there's 450,000 wallets that are verified for the auction. So you actually had to like KYC, so verify to get access to the auction for the plot. So like social security, like what you did with KuCoin, Ev.
Yeah.
And so
Rip.
so they announced the mint's going to be Apecoin, and then all of the transactions in the metaverse are going to be Apecoin. So apparently, so they're just saying there's going to be a ton of buy pressure on it. And I'm pretty sure like the mutant apes, I believe, get one whitelist mint, and I don't know how much the Bored Apes get. I thought that's what I saw, but I can't confirm. I haven't seen it on their website or Twitter.
And so wait, just to be clear, so there's 200,000 plots in their metaverse, and they had 450,000 people on their. Is that what you said? On
their KYC list, yeah. So 450,000 people.
List?
Yeah, so 450,000 people like went in, put in their names, like addresses, all that kind of stuff. And the big stat is that there's only like of tens of thousands of Apecoin holders. So if these people are actually gonna, I mean, who knows who's actually gonna mint off that verification? I mean, they could be going for 1 ETH, 2 ETH right off the bat, more than that probably. But there's gonna be definitely like a lot of buy pressure coming in just from those two factors. And I feel like even if a tenth of the people signed up take a shot at the auction, there's a lot of volume coming in.
So you can mint these in Apecoin, or you can mint it in ETH.
Yeah. So I think I was just kind of pulling something up over here. I'm pretty sure that it's just Apecoin for the mint. I don't know if like the Bored Ape Yacht Club owners get like, because they're like have a whole different kind of detail in their Discord, which I'm not in. And I don't know if like they get an option to do Ethereum, but I'm pretty sure like the public mint auction for these verified wallets is going to be Apecoin only. So that's why there's been such like a crazy upward trajectory on it. Like the last week is because they literally announced that and people just started buying it, whether for investment or for, just in general wanting to participate.
Right. And when you look at the other metaverse plays like Sandbox and Decentraland, those were also two projects that made you buy in their native currency, made you buy the plots of land and made you in their currency. So this isn't like out of the ordinary, but it's definitely made Apecoin pump. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's at like it's top 30 at the moment. Coins by market cap in the last like couple weeks, it was like down in the 50s. So it's been just shooting up the chart.
Yeah, 5.5 billion market cap. Crazy.
Yeah. We're gonna have to do a
It's more than Polygon.
Yeah.
Is it? Is it more than Polygon? Like,
No. I don't think it's
No, it's more.
No.
Oh no, that was TVL. That was TVL.
Yeah,
You said
that's
5 billion, right?
Yeah. I think
okay.
Polygon's market cap is like almost 10.
Yeah, it's like 9.5, I think. So it's like half the size. But like, damn, it's only.
But still, I mean, yeah.
Well, and the big thing too is that the first day it released and why it pumped from like $4 to $10 the first day is because it automatically got listed on all exchanges. So like immediately people could buy it on Coinbase, which almost never happens with tokens.
Yeah, that's true.
And I was dumb not to buy earlier, but if you believe in Bored Ape Yacht Club, it's not a terrible hitch to tie the horse to. But
I mean, it turns out that Yuga Labs knows what they're doing. So.
It's like Polygon latching on to Ethereum. It's like latch on to the best and biggest thing that you know.
Right,
You'll get taken to the moon with them,
Go for a ride.
A rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah, seriously.
That's true. That's why we need Bitcoin to go up.
Yeah, rip, bro. It's not looking good. But that's okay. We're still gonna be here through bull or bear. We will be here for you all subscribers.
We ain't going anywhere. Same time, same place. You know how it goes. But yeah, next week should be a pretty fun episode because we got this drop. We have the Fed meeting. It might get pretty wild next week. That's all I gotta say.
No, Fed meeting. Oh no.
Yeah.
we'll have to pull up some tweets from this next week about the other side of the land drop. I mean,
yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be some rugs out there. So we'll get a rug.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be some scammers. Yeah, for sure.
Oh man. Well,
all right,
alrighty,
boys.
Yeah.
That's it for this week. Episode 9 in the books. As always, if you found this useful, funny, entertaining, anything, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below. Thank you all, as always, for tuning in. And yeah, we'll be back next week with episode 10. We're in the double digits. Double digits next week.
Let's do it.
All right.
Thanks
as always,
flexibility, homies.
signing off. Wag me.
Wag.